they're in a position to win another championship. And he's also a guy that has completely changed the way the game of basketball is played. And I get it, he's not this 6'8" behemoth athlete, but he's proven you don't have to be. He's shown you the formula. He's put forth the resume, and for whatever reason, we don't want to believe what we're seeing. People continue to discount him and not give him the credit that he deserves. I mean, this guy is as clutch and impacts the game of basketball as much as anybody playing it. You have to account for everything he does on the floor at all times, and to me, that is what we're talking about. You know, he didn't have another All-NBA guy last year.
Right.
You know, Clay was not what he was. Draymond was coming on and getting better, and they still won it.
Right, and I don't know that we've seen a superstar be as unselfish as Curry probably since Tim Duncan. And Steve Kerr, who played with Duncan and now coaches Curry, has said the same. Remember, Steph Curry started the playoffs coming off the bench. Steph Curry at times found a way to play off the ball, and that oftentimes is how he's most successful, letting Jordan Poole or Draymond Green or Klay Thompson or Andrew Wiggins control the basketball, which is what makes this team so impossible to defend.
It's such a great point. I go back to a conversation I had with Steve Kerr when he took over the Rams, and it was about philosophically what he wanted to do. And he said, you know, actually, I want to take the ball out of Steph's hands. I want to put him in situations where it will allow him to play to his strengths. And again, no ego. He was fine with that because ultimately he knew, you heard Draymond in that piece talk about how it was about what would be best for the team. And I think that's worked out pretty well with 4 championships and during this run, and really no signs of slowing down. Yes, the competition's getting better, but so are the Warriors.
No question. And a big part of what makes this team so dangerous coming into this year is another year of experience for some of the younger guys. So as we go to point 3, the question is, we know what they're going to get likely from Curry, Clay, Draymond, Wiggins. What about the younger guys as you look at Moody, Kuminga, Wiseman, who we have not seen much of at all in his first 2 seasons? What is to be expected? What is needed from those young guys, particularly over the marathon of the regular season?
2 things. Growth, obviously. I think Kuminga is ready probably to have the biggest impact of the young guys simply because physically I think he can have an impact even though his skill set hasn't quite matched up to it yet. And I think because he's got a similar player in Andrew Wiggins, it'll help his learning curve. Like he'll be able to see ways he can impact the game similarly to how Wiggins does. So I think he's got an opportunity. And then the health with Wiseman. I think James Wiseman is the type of player, it's really kind of set up for him to evolve into that position. You know, he's big, he's mobile, he's physical. He's just got to learn and get comfortable. You got to remember, this is a kid that really hasn't played basketball in almost 4 years.
His first preseason game over in Japan, Wiseman, 20 points and 9 rebounds. Remember, he and his potential is a big reason why at the trade deadline last season, Bob Myers did not go out and try and get one of those rim runners, one of those defensive impact players that can defend the rim, because they knew what they eventually would have in Wiseman, who potentially could fit so well in this offense and defense.
Jared, it's a great point. And also the business aspect of it, no matter what he does, he's going to get a favorable contract for Golden State.
Right.
Much like what happened with Steph Curry. This all started because of Steph Curry's ankles, right? Because that extension he signed was so favorable to the team that it allowed them to be in a position where they never worried about the salary cap. They weren't worrying about the luxury tax. They're going to have a similar scenario if it works out with Wiseman, because he's not going to get a max contract coming up. He's going to have to earn what he gets. And Looney is also a young man that continues to get better. He was phenomenal for them in the postseason.
Well, the Warriors' victory lap took a stop in North Carolina this past summer, where Steph Curry, well, he got some things done. Better late than never, right? Got that diploma from Davidson. Did you see the ceremony? It was all tailored for him. A really cool graduation ceremony. And now his number 30 is up in the rafters as he played for Bob McKillop at Davidson. All right, so now here are the Warriors, a team that finished 3rd in the West last year before winning a title. They won 53 games. So the question is, 52.5 wins, over or under this upcoming season?
I think the Warriors are in a position where they're focused on the postseason. I think they'll use the regular season to get ready. So I could see a scenario where they have a similar record. I'm gonna go I'm gonna go under. I think they win around the same amount of games, but they'll be poised and ready come postseason.
Are they ready? Are they the favorite in your mind to win a championship?
Absolutely. There's no way you can't have them as the favorite. When they've been healthy, they've been in the finals. Pure and simple over the course of this run.
Well, this group looking for another championship to.
Sometimes things are so. The way to reestablish yourself, reestablish the Lakers to get back to the top of the food chain. The menu is simple, and sometimes that simplicity becomes complicated because you're reaching and pulling from so many different things where the answers are in simple form right in front of you.
We know the world is watching us. When doesn't the world watch us? Even when we didn't make the playoffs, this world was still talking about us. For me, come in and play basketball. If I be who I am, the Anthony Davis that I know I can be, the rest will take care of itself. Obviously, our ultimate goal is to win a championship, but we can't skip steps.
When you stepped into the league, what was your expectations as far as, did you think about how long you would be in this league?
Yeah.
What was your thought process?
Nah, man, I didn't see. I didn't think about how long I'll be in the league. My expectations for myself was I knew I belonged. I knew I could play the game, but I had to continue to learn and continue to grow. And obviously I was 18 years old, so very young. I didn't know much about the pro game besides watching it and studying it, but I knew how to play basketball.
What do you have left to give at this point?
I think my mind. I think when your mind is fresh and your mind is stable and your mind is clear, that's what I have to give, and that's going to allow my game and allow my body to stay fresh, and that's going to allow me to do what I need to do at a high level because this is always sharp. So to be a part of this franchise, this is my 5th year with this franchise. We got one championship, and that's what we want to continue to build towards. But it starts on day one.
Team previews presented by Yahoo Sports.
This is a look at the Lakers 2022-2023 campaign. Welcome to our NBA TV team previews. He is Greg Anthony. I'm Jared Greenberg. Was there a team that was more disappointing last year in the NBA and more in the spotlight than the Lakers? The quick answer, no. They did reshuffle the deck, new head coach, new supporting cast. We'll get into all that, but everything with the purple and gold starts and ends with LeBron James, who will enter season 20 as we go 3 points on the Lakers moving ahead. He's on the verge of some major history. If he's healthy, he should pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the all-time scoring lead in the history of the NBA.
And Jared, it's hard to fathom that could be a reality. I always felt like that was one of the more untouchable records in the entire sports book when you think about it. And so to have LeBron, who is also not considered a score-first guy, right, to be on the verge of breaking that record is unreal. And I guess also to have it be done in a Lakers uniform is pretty impressive as well. And so, yeah, that's going to be a big deal. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of eyes on that, but as you well know, there are going to be eyes on other aspects of this Lakers team moving forward. And one of the big questions is going to also be, can LeBron sustain that level of consistency and play more games? Because that was one of the big issues a season ago.
And you saw that graphic that we had up, depending on how many points per game, depending on how many, obviously, games he is on the court, is when he will pass Kareem. Let's go to the guy who is not receiving as much of the spotlight as LeBron, but maybe more important than LeBron in terms of how far this team can go. Is this season all about what Anthony Davis can do?
Yes. I don't think there's any question. And it's not even for me about whether or not this team can contend for a title. I don't think that we're having that conversation. But if you're the LA Lakers, you've got to determine, is this the guy we want to basically mortgage our future around moving forward? LeBron's under contract for a couple more years, but the reality is, in order for this team to have a lot of optimism and feel good about the future, he's got to get back to the level he was the year they won it. That year, there was no question he's one of the 5 best players. Now, there's doubt as to whether or not he's one of the 5 best bigs. And so there's going to be tremendous motivation and eyeballs on this young man to see if he can return to that level. It has to happen, and everything has to start with that. He has got to be not only a great player, impactful player, but an available player.
Right. You saw that graphic about how much time he has missed over the last couple of years. In terms of AD, there is the focus on him being the primary offensive go-to guy. We've heard a lot about that. But as you referred to, when they won a championship in the bubble, he was also arguably the best defensive player in the bubble.
There's no doubt about it. He has the ability with his size and his athleticism to really impact all facets of the game. He could be their leading scorer. He could also, I think, be arguably one of the more dominant defenders in our league. And quite frankly, he's got to be that. Yeah. That's one area where I think bringing in Darvin Ham, the emphasis is going to be on that side of the ball. And if you look at the moves they made, they didn't make the big splash, right? They didn't get the Kyrie Irving trade done. But the guys they brought in have a mindset of defense, right? With Beverly and Schroeder and these guys, they've got to get back there first. That's the area where I think they can make the biggest improvement.
Well, let's talk about what Darvin Ham has to deal with. Talked about reshuffling the deck. Rob Pelinka added some ancillary pieces around LeBron, AD, and they still have Russell Westbrook and a crowded backcourt that have many people scratching their head. Is Russ and the rest of this supporting cast enough?
I think they're enough to be a playoff team. I'm not sure about trying to get to that next realm where you can contend and compete for a championship. Having said that, I do feel like a lot of what happened with Russell Westbrook was as much the fault of everything that was going on there. Not just him. I think they only played 20 games today with he, LeBron, and Anthony Davis. So you never really got an opportunity to define the pecking order and how this thing was going to flow. But I think